I am here with Jay from Unfair Sports. Going to talk a little bit of Oklahoma today. Jay, thank you for joining me. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, TJ, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, no softballs here since the streak
Uh-oh.
got broken the other day. Um, 7 people watching this video are going to get that joke. Boldest prediction for Oklahoma football this year.
I'm going to be honest. Going into the SEC, the beauty of what Oklahoma has is that they're walking in with a defensive coach in Brent Venables, who's done well against SEC coaches in his past, and the most returning production on the defensive side in the SEC. So Oklahoma is number one in that. Over about 79% of the defensive production is returning for a defensive coach. It tells me everything I need to know about what we're going into. No more Saban. Only I deal with Kirby Smart, in which we don't play him during the season at all. So if I'm gonna be bold, I'm gonna say 11-1.
Okay.
Will be the boldest prediction I could put out for Oklahoma.
Yeah, the schedule sets up okay, which for the SEC, like it's the SEC. Fortunately, you don't have Florida's schedule, which is an absolute nightmare, and South Carolina's is really tough. A little bit better there, but let's back up before we get too far into this year. 10-2 last year, and then the bowl game. I don't put a lot of stock. Bowl game you put a lot of stock into. If you win, if you lose, it doesn't matter. But 10-2 after a sub 500 year, the year before, where I think a lot of Oklahoma folks thought, hey, man, Venables is going to come in. We're not going to miss a beat. We're going to have a really good year. Obviously, there was some letdown with how things went in 2022. Now, they lost a lot of close one-score games. And so you kind of thought, like, man, this team could be a lot better, could be a lot closer. 10-2, but then go into the SEC this year, as you mentioned. What are the expectations? Is it improve upon it? Is it, hey, 10-2 gets you to the playoff? Or what are the thoughts around Oklahoma right now?
Honestly, the thoughts really are to maintain what last year was. Finishing about 10-2 is what everybody's expectation is. I think the floor that everybody has in their mindset has been 9-3, at least in the conversations I've had with some Sooner fans and some insiders and those at the school. The focus is to be at least 9-3, but push into that 10-11. Because as you mentioned, schedule-wise, technically 247 labeled us as the second hardest schedule going into the season, right behind Florida, right? But that was, throwing in there with Alabama coming to town, right? Traveling to LSU right after playing Alabama at home to end the season. But the good thing about the schedule and the way it's lined up, there's breaks in there that's just about perfect. Now, I'd say the biggest challenge is going to be after the first 3 games of non-conference games, even though those are Houston and Tulane, which Tulane's coach went to Houston. And so we have now that coach to go against.
Doubled up, yeah.
And then Tulane picked up a new coach. So we have both of those in the ties going against each other. And then Temple. The Tennessee game at home is where the first challenge comes in. Josh Heupel, former Oklahoma national champion winning quarterback. My bad knowing about your team. But we won a title with him, and he's coming home for the first time since he departed back in like 2014. And so because of that, Tennessee's kind of a challenge. Then from there, we travel to Auburn. I think that one's going to be a tough one because it's Jordan Hare, and everybody says weird things happen there, except for unless you're a 4-letter acronym school, you typically beat them in Auburn. But I digress there. But we get a week off after that. Yeah. Then we play Red River, which is, one of the big rivalries in college football. We'll travel to Dallas, meet halfway at the Cotton Bowl. We'll play that game. We'll get that break before that, though, is huge because Texas, and you got the Ole Miss game. You start to see some challenges. That's a road game there. But the beauty of it is that once you get close to Missouri, the week before Missouri, you're taking on Maine, which is technically a bye week for SEC schools, right? They always got that FCS game that's a bye week. So we have been officially initiated into the SEC. So I'm pretty excited about that. But then after that game, you got a bye in Bama and then LSU, right? So those bye weeks are being strategically put in there right before the bigger games. And then you've got a nice kind of cushy game before another game that could be tough. As Missouri had a really good year last year, we'll just have to see if they can just replicate that year itself.
Yeah. I think, there's so many unknowns, there's so many questions, right? And you mentioned some of these teams, Tennessee having a lot of expectations this year. But Nico's young and you're getting him early in the years, probably a benefit, probably a help. Ole Miss, going to the Grove doesn't sound like it'd be a lot of fun, but also, are they going to play any defense? And what is you mentioned your defense, what does that look like, right? A lot of times defense can beat out offense. And then at the very end of the year, you mentioned Saban-less Alabama and Jaden Daniels-less LSU, right? And so what does that look like? And it's hard to know, and it's even harder to predict things that happen in week 11 and 12 and 13 of the year. Like, well, what's going on that late in the year? Like it does most places, no matter how good your defense is, it all kind of ebbs and flows with quarterback play. What's the expectation there for the QB position in 2023, 2024?
So
Wake up.
yeah, I know, right? 2024 and beyond. We've got Jackson Arnold, the 5-star quarterback. He was the Gatorade Player of the Year coming in, and of course, all the expectations are high, right? If he lives up to the expectations, that's an Heisman candidate day one. Uh, but of course, he's got to live up to them, right? Now, of course, I'm throwing a hyperbole out there, and everyone's looking at me like, "What Heisman? We don't even know this kid." Exactly. But if he lives up to the expectations,
Sure.
that's what we expect. That class of quarterbacks was really good, right? You had him, you had Nico. The one that I was the lowest on in those 5-star quarterbacks, Malachi Nelson, kind of proved me right. He's not at Boise State. So there's no reason for me to believe that he was going to be better than the rest. But that class was just crazy good. Dante Moore. That was a nice class of quarterbacks coming through. Jackson to me was up there in the top 3, and it should have been in the top 3, but he ended up being like number 5 overall of those 5 stars. But Gatorade Player of the Year, he comes in with ability to run. He's not sneaky or deceptively fast. He actually is fast. He's very agile, and we got to see glimpses of what he can do against in the game. What was that against Arizona?
Yeah.
And the question we asked ourselves was, all right, when you get rid of the mistakes, can he do this all season long? And that was the beauty of it. Like in the between time, when he calmed down as a freshman starting quarterback in the bowl game against a team that really, I guess you could say, overachieved, but was kind of underrated. People didn't appreciate him until later in the year. And they're like, wait, this Fafita kid and this teammate kid, they're really good. And their defense, it's kind of solid. He went out there, calmed down, led Oklahoma to some opportunities to honestly blow the game up. We unfortunately had 2 fumbles in the red zone right before scoring, and then that's just kind of when the game just fell apart. But he gave you the glimpses of what is there. If we don't have those 2 fumbles, we win the game, right?
Easily. Yeah.
Because we were in the red zone and he was leading us there. But when you got him to settle, he showed you, nice glimpses of what we can have. And I think that that's going to carry over into next year. The offensive coordinator, of course, Jeff Lebby, took the job at Mississippi State. So the question is, what's the offense going to look like? Well, bringing in Seth Luttrell, who also worked with Jeff Lebby back when Lebby was here and has been an offensive coordinator for years, he runs a similar setup. So the anticipation is we won't miss a beat, very high-flying offense, but also with the pace. So, yeah, I think the quarterback-wise, Jackson Arnold, working with that staff like he's had, we're in good hands.
Are there any ill will or any ill feelings, or does Jackson Arnold kind of quench any kind of ill will that would have been toward Gabriel leaving?
Yeah. And to be honest, the funny thing is you've even heard some national guys talk about it. You can tell, why Dylan Gabriel left. He looked at Jackson Arnold and was like, yep, I'm not going to beat him out next year, right? There's no way. And so, yeah, I appreciate what Dylan Gabriel did the 2 years he was here. I mean, the anticipation is that when they signed Jackson Arnold, that Gabriel was going to be gone right after that anyway. Is that we got Dylan Gabriel. We signed Jackson Arnold during Dylan's first year. Second season was to let Jackson Arnold get his feet wet. Because I don't care what anybody says, it's not fun playing a freshman quarterback.
True freshman,
true freshman quarterback. It's not fun, right? Let him get a little exposure into the collegiate level, the speed of it. And based upon the way he played in his best moments, he could process it. He's just got to make sure that he's not looking for a safety blanket or panicking, which I don't see that with him next year. I think that now the game has got to the speed he's comfortable with. So no ill will with Dylan. I hope he blows it out up there at Oregon and does great things, because I was hoping he'd go pro, but I hope he does really good there to up his stock and give him an opportunity. But I think he left because he looked at that room and was like, yeah, I'm not beating that kid.
Wouldn't be the first quarterback to go to Oregon, blow his stock up even more, and then head to the NFL. So you mentioned recruiting, you mentioned, with Arnold, like signing him and stuff. Oklahoma recruiting, number 8 class in the country last year, off to a good start this year as well. I see your tweets. I see, every time you drop a new video, you guys are making me jealous down there in December with everything you guys were landing. My team's December was a little underwhelming, but you guys are liking Venables there on the trail, huh?
Venables has been doing everything we've hoped for and more on the trail, right? And you made the great point there that last class was 8. The year before that it was 5th. If you would do based upon composite of all of them together, ESPN had them as 4th on theirs. And then the year before that, when he first got there, he comes in beginning of December, takes the job, salvages a early enrollment class, and finishes like 8th in that class as well. So you go 8, 5, 8 in your first 3 years of recruiting. It's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
With some pretty solid 5 stars to go in that mix. And so he's done everything we wanted. But the best part about his 5 stars and the players he's getting a ton of defenders, right? Yeah. Something we could not have said about Oklahoma over the last 10 years. Defense was not something we cared much about. And we are seeing that that's the emphasis because he knows as a national championship winning defensive coordinator, you got to have a really good defense to get yourself to the promised land. And you got to have a quarterback that can help you get over that hump too. Defense wins championships, but you still got to have that quarterback because ain't nobody today in today's college football going to win a championship off the back of just the defense. The quarterback still got to be able to participate, but his focus has been big defenders in the interior, getting some solid linebackers, he's a linebacker guy, just overall defense. And that's the thing that Sooner fans have fallen in love with, is that he's practicing what he preaches. He's a defensive guy. He's going after defensive players, and we're landing some really good ones that's going to be impactful over the next couple of years.
I am going to talk with Jay about Lincoln Riley, Brent Venables, Clemson, USC, Oklahoma, in another video soon. So make sure that you're subscribed. Jay, where can folks find your work and follow you on social media?
Find me on Unfair Sports, wherever, here on YouTube, as well as wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to. Follow me on Twitter, Xbird, or whatever you want to call it. Unfair Sports as well.
Awesome. Thank you for spending some time tonight, man. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it.